Welcome to the Daily Apple. I'm your host, Kevin White. My occasional co-host, Emma Ryan, and I will dive into all topics related to the science of longevity, along with some other subjects we just find of interest, with the hopes to provide useful information for everyone. This stems from my personal interest to optimize the human condition. To not just live longer, but to live better. Hello, everyone. In this episode, I get to sit down with Gary Brooks, and we get into great detail discussing how dismal the health rankings are for Oklahoma and his big, audacious, hairy goal for optimizing and improving the health of our city. We also discussed his history as far as his accomplishments in developing areas downtown. So without further delay, please enjoy this conversation. All right. Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Apple. I'm here with the one and only Gary Brooks. And we're going to talk about kind of Gary. I'm excited to have you here. You've been a great connection and great for the state of Oklahoma. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of your history, what got you here. And you're just kind of a different breed of cat as far as the way you look at, health outcomes of Oklahoma and how we really need to reframe the conversation a little bit about how we deal with healthcare here and all that.
Glad to be here. I have been called a different cat, so that's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah.
I've only known you for about 3 or 4 months, but I feel like it's been years.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it's good. I'm older than you. I tell people, whatever age they are, it's not as good as 63. 63 is really good.
Really?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you probably give yourself a lot of leeway and freedom that you didn't in the past.
When I'm younger, you think when you pass 60, life's going to be a certain way, and it's not anything like what I expected. I feel like that the first 40 years were just preparing me for now, which is really sad because I'm to the point now where you start attending funerals of friends.
Yeah.
Had one 2 weeks ago, 53 years old, marathoner, died on a pickleball court.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Good friend, investor of mine, just shocking.
Yeah.
So I get on a soapbox with my friends. They either want to see me coming or they don't, because I want to, first thing is, have you had your blood looked at?
Before we get into that, I want to talk about things that brought you here to this conversation and the topic we're having today and your interest in that. But you're from Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, I was born in Lubbock. My dad is a Texas Tech Red Raider, but I moved to Ponca City when I was 3.
Yeah.
So I've been in Oklahoma for 60 years.
And you've been in the development side of things, big in business and everything, is the majority of your career.
1987. So I graduated from Ponca City High School in 80, went to Oklahoma Christian here in Edmond in 80, 81, 82, graduated from UCO with an accounting degree, did not pass the CPA exam, didn't like accounting, decided to go sell cars for Bob Moore. So I was selling Range Rovers in the mid-'80s for Mr. Moore downtown. And liked that, but knew it wasn't my future. Got into commercial real estate in 1987, met my partner of many years, a guy named Mark Beffert, about 89, and then he and I stayed together for many years till I went out on my own and started doing development full-time in about 2006.
And what are some of the tell us how that looked like after 2006? What were some of the big...
Well, I looked at a demographic chart from about 1900. People say, how'd you get into apartment development? I said, I just looked at a demographic chart and saw there were like 70 million kids coming out of high school and college needed apartments. So I got into student housing at OU, UCO, started doing some on-campus stuff, off-campus, and ended up becoming an apartment developer. I built a dozen projects or so here in Oklahoma City. My specialty that I got to be known for was what they call a Texas wrap. I did a project called Edge at Midtown, Steel Yard in Bricktown, Terra, Norman, Argonne up here at Chisholm Creek. Started doing those type of projects.
Okay.
Got pretty comfortable. A lender used a financing program that we got really good at and built my team around it. And life was really good. At about 2015, things were going fantastic. And then I either did the best thing of my life or the worst thing. I walked in a building called First National downtown in September of 2015 and thought I heard the Lord calling me to redevelop it, and I laughed at him and thought that was crazy. And Called Mark Beffert and said, hey, I'm thinking about running it First nationally. He said, you've lost your mind. It can't be done.
Whenever you walked into it, was it being utilized at that time, or was it just a vacant building?
It was open, but it was very low rent. There was mainly state agencies who were looking for cheap rent. It was an out-of-state owner, didn't spend any money on it. Ceilings collapsing in the Great Hall. It was a mess. In fact, the way it ended up getting sold to us was the city condemned it as a health hazard and took it over and handed it to a federal judge. And the federal judge cleaned the title, hired someone to come in and figure out how to sell it. Got him Jim Perrick with Price Edwards, became the receiver. Jim went out looking all around the country for someone to buy the building, who's the most qualified. I like to say I was not the most qualified, but I was the only person in the state that put a bid in.
Really?
Yeah. It was either pick the local guy who doesn't have experience like this, or pick the out-of-state people who do that you don't know, and maybe you can't trust them. So my partner and I got picked. We signed the contract January of 16. We closed January of 17, and 7 years later we opened.
Yeah.
I make it sound real simple.
You do make it sound simple, and anybody. So I went to go down there to Tellers, and I had no idea why it was called Tellers at the time, because I obviously don't know what's going on in Oklahoma City. But I and my son-in-law now took my daughter to go eat there, and so so we went there one time, and I looked around and realized, oh wait, this is an old bank. They're little Tellers Date, all that other stuff, and so I saw the end product, but a lot of people don't. And it's super cool. The process, you skimmed over a bunch of a deep valley you went through to kind of get through there.
Yeah, it's the largest redevelopment in state history. State capital was about $265 million. We were just over $300 million. Not proud of that, but that ended up being the number. 7.5 years, probably took 1,000 people. At any time, we'd have 600 people in the building working. During COVID, that was really challenging. I had over 100 lenders turn me down on financing. Nothing I thought when we went into it happened, other than we finished it. Everything else, every assumption I made was wrong, probably. But, when you take on something like that, the city got behind me, and you knew you had to finish it. Now's not the time to go into all the challenges. People who are in the business, who watched it, understand. We were the largest asbestos job in the country in 2017.
Yeah.
We hauled off 40 million pounds or something. I don't remember. We completely stripped the 1 million square foot building and rebuilt it. So
wow.
We kept everything original, but everything else we took out of the building, and took 3 years to get it ready just to rebuild it back.
Yeah.
So opened April of 2022. 3 years ago, actually the 3-year anniversary they're having downtown at the building today. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you went through some things, and we've talked about that before, that kind of changed what brought us here today. Some of the things you went through there, that kind of reframed the way you looked at things. And we're going to talk about, health and proactive health, and then get into that for our state and stuff. But you kind of had a personal inflection there. That came out of all that.
It started in 2019. I had reflux for years. I'm a typical business guy, got my head down, running full speed. We did about $800 million of development during my time. And so we always were just running full speed. July of 2019, I remember driving down I-35 to a meeting. It was one morning for breakfast. And I remember thinking I'm having a panic attack. And I had never had one. And so for personalities like me, you'll understand, I'm now arguing with myself. You can't be having a panic attack. Things haven't even gotten hard yet. Like, the project's going to get more difficult. And looking back, COVID hadn't hit yet. Well, things got really hard when COVID hit. I'm trying to open the most expensive hotel in Oklahoma history, and every hotel in the country shutting down, and I don't have financing. So this was going to be a problem. Blew that off, ended up coming out of that day, but I think I was having heart issues then. Didn't know it. Had journaled some stuff that week. In November of 2019, I was up all night with heartburn, and my wife got up at 5:30 and saw me sitting in the chair in the living room, which I did every morning doing my journal time. And I said, hey, I've been here all night. I haven't moved out of this chair. And so she said, we're getting you a calcium scan, which I didn't really know what that was. And I had a 748 score. And 2 weeks later, I'm in heart surgery getting heart stents. Came out of it feeling pretty good, but we had to finish the building. COVID hits, all the challenges. We opened this thing April of 22, and I was a mess. I was an absolute wreck. Physically and mentally, I was dead. It had a meeting that I had no memory of. I had a staff member there, an investor. I had no memory of this meeting.
Really?
And that's when I knew something's wrong. And I say now, I'm not sure I had this thought at the time, but I think I was going to die. I mean, I was in that bad a shape. So May of 2022, we were about 75 million over budget. People in the development business understand everything changes. So I'd sold everything, all my assets. We'd sold all the properties just to try to get First National open. So I didn't have, my business is shut down because I needed all my resources. My staff had been committed to First National for 7 years. So we literally shut everything, almost everything. And I said, I got to get healthy or I'm going to die. Didn't know what that meant. Had 2 gyms I built in the building, started going to the gym, got on YouTube, assumed exercise was the key. Kind of began learning nutrition's more important. Understanding stress management, maybe what that had done to my body, and then start studying sleep. And so I really started diving into this hard, 8 hours a day.
Because you're thinking your stress level is super high at this point. You're having meetings that you don't remember. You're not thinking straight. I mean, you're in a tough.
I wasn't doing any blood analysis. I didn't have a continuous glucose monitor. Wasn't watching any of that. Now knowing what prednisone does to my body, or what stress, just what stress does to my glucose. I can't imagine what a typical day was like, much less 6 years of this.
Can you imagine if we had you monitor at that point just to follow
I would hate
your numbers?
It would have just, I'm getting by on 4 or 5 hours of sleep at night, which I took great pride in, not realizing it was killing me.
Yeah.
So I dove headfirst into it, just trying to get myself healthy, assuming I was going to get back into real estate. My wife's the CFO of one of the largest owners in the city, and so she's in the business too. Ever since we've been married, now 36 years, all she's known is me working. So she's kind of thinking, when are you going back to work? Well, I got to get healthy first because I'm not worth anything right now. About a year in, I started getting healthy and began to understand a lot more about blood, and had a CGM at that point. Had a couple wearables and Oura Ring and start trying to track data. By year 2, I had a lot of knowledge under my belt. My blood numbers are going way, not always down, but my numbers are moving in the right direction. I had a real scare. My first deep blood work, had never heard of Lp(a). Didn't know what that was. Nobody ever tested it. I had heart surgery. It was never tested.
Yeah.
And so I see this 83 Lp(a) score. And so I jump on YouTube, and it doesn't take very long to find some experts going, you're going to die.
Yeah.
At 83, a little exaggeration, but many of them would basically say, if you're over 50, you're a heart attack waiting to happen.
You're at risk, yeah.
And everybody I was listening to said, take it one time because you're born with it. It's either from your mom or your dad or you're both. And I'm thinking, well, this sucks. I've got an 83. I need to be below 30, and I can't ever change it. A year later, I'm a 43.
Right.
And that's when I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Even my heart surgeon was like, we don't know. We don't track that. We don't track Lp(a). Insurance won't pay the $20 to test it. And ultimately, we don't have a drug for it anyway.
And I guess for anybody listening, it's a variant of LDL. It's really arthroma. It causes a lot of disease, and it's a real bad character. But yeah, go ahead.
So that was really my first experience with, hey, I can change this. This is something I'm born with that I actually can impact with lifestyle changes. And so that was really the next wave for me was, wonder what else I could change. Can I change the calcium in my arteries? Can I age backwards? And by this time, I'm spending 8 hours a day studying this every day. So I'm now, if Peter Attia said it, I've heard it. I paid his $2,500 to be one of his prime members, and anyone that I thought was credible, which is part of the challenge in this world when I'm a real estate guy. So I don't even understand the language, but finding credible people, everybody's an expert.
Yeah.
And so my friends go, well, how do you know what to believe? First thing is, if the title says everything you need to know about anything, ignore it, because nobody knows everything there is to know about anything. So I can weed through that stuff pretty quick. But that's how it happened, Kevin. I just became fascinated with it, and I found some functional medicine people that I liked, but sometimes, wasn't connecting, didn't feel like maybe they were the right person for me, for my lifestyle. And Brian Bergman introduced me to you, and that's how it happened.
Yeah. So you did all this. You essentially made some changes in your own health. And I guess people who knew you before, I didn't know you before, obviously see you and, even physically notably different than before, I imagine. I bet you got an earful.
Yeah. The two questions I get asked most are, what are you doing now after First National?
Right. What
are you going to do next? And the second question is, what are you doing? like you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm committed. And I have the time. One of the great things about being 63 is my kids are gone and grown and successful and married, and my wife works. So I've got a lot of time, kind of hit a point in life where I've got a lot more flexibility. That I tell people, especially my younger friends, I'm not your model. You're in a different season. So one of my goals is how can I help my friends not have to spend 8 hours a day?
Right.
15 minutes a day. What can I teach my friends in 15 minutes? That's all they need. What's the lowest hanging fruit that I can help my friends? I guess about a year ago, my wife really looked at me. She goes, when are you going back to work? And I said, I'm not.
Really?
I said, baby, I know how to keep my friends from dying now. And I only got 3,000 hours of study, which means I know a little about a lot. I can't go very deep on any of it, but I know a little about a lot of stuff. I said, I think I can keep my friends from dying. And I'm tired of going to funerals. So I said, I can't ever wake up again and go do a real estate deal. There's no motivation to.
Yeah.
And after First National, it would probably be hard to find something that would inspire me to go do it. So I don't know what that looks like. That's what I told her. I said, I have no clue what this looks like, but I'm committed to health and wellness, whatever that means. And I'd like to use my influence, my favor with the city, with friends, with people, to do something. I don't think I've ever said this other than to my wife, but I said, she's like, what's your goal? I'd like to die and First National as a footnote. Where people go, didn't he do that building downtown? If I can do something that meaningful where that building isn't even on the top 20 things that I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. That one of the things about this practice, and I've said that, and you kind of alluded to that, is all of our clients kind of become our friends. And it's like you learn everything about really proactive health and longevity to where you just want to grow old with cool people. And this is your, like you said, I mean, these stories about guys and their fees and dropping dead from cardiovascular outcomes. And it's just a lot of stuff doesn't need to happen if we can reframe the conversation on how we deal with stuff. But
it doesn't. And I'm trying to be an example. If I can get someone, whether they're 35 or 75, to look at me and go, what are you doing? That at least opens the conversation. And I usually begin with something like, hey, how do you sleep? And I get the same answer almost every time. Yeah, I sleep good. I go, how do you know? What do you mean? How do I know? Well, you would never buy a car without any gauges. But if you did, started up, sounded good, got me where I want to go, I think the car is fine. That's how most of us run our life. And I use that analogy because it usually gets someone's attention to say, okay, I never thought about that. I just worked a lot harder on strategic planning in my business than I did my body. I had gauges and numbers and data. I knew exactly where my business stood. Yet I never did any of that on my own health.
Yeah.
You're in a world, you took a chance a few years ago, said, I'm going to move into an arena that's very different from the one you moved out of. It needs to be personal. I'm alive today because good doctors and good nurses found a problem and fixed me. I believe that. My wife's alive today. 7 years ago this week, they found cancer. She's been free of it. But I'm a big proponent of the healthcare system. Sure. They saved me. But none of my doctors are going to know me very well. They got 10 minutes with me. I mean, they've got 50 other people they've got to see. They're doing surgeries. And it's impossible for someone like me who's taken health and wellness serious. If I don't have someone like you who really understands what I do and my lifestyle, my personality, it's a dance that you've decided to take on as a profession that most people haven't.
Yeah. Well, we're getting there.
More and more people will.
Yeah.
Because I think it's becoming more and more acceptable. I hope to be a part of that in my own city, to make health and wellness more common, where people are talking about it more often. I get it personally. It's shocking how little people know.
Talk about you've done this for yourself. We want to do it for our friends. You want to expand that to Oklahoma. You've got some real visions. After talking to you, you have a pseudo clear vision, I'd say, but talk a little bit about that. Where do you see that going?
I was journaling one morning about a year ago, and I typically don't dive too deep into my faith world, but I can't talk about my life without it. I was getting healthy. I'm feeling good, probably in the best shape I've been in 40 years. And I was journaling one day and I said, Lord, I'm glad I'm healthy, but it can't just be for me. What's the plan? I'm ready to get back in the game. That's kind of how I described it. I'm better on the front line. I'm not real good when I don't have things in front of me that I'm doing. And he just said to me, hey, I want Oklahoma City to be the healthiest city in the country. And I thought, that's crazy. Didn't even know we weren't a healthy city. So I did a little research, started Googling healthiest cities in the country, and was shocked with what I found out. The first website that came up was the Academy of Sports Science and Medicine. They do a survey of the 100 largest cities every year, 34 different metrics, some objective, some subjective. We are number 100 out of 100.
Cities
in the country. I traced it back for 5 years. We're number 100 for the last 5 years. We literally are the least healthiest city in the country by almost any metric you use. And I was real surprised by that because I've only lived here and Oklahoma City feels great to me. My friends are business guys, women, they're running their own companies. And if I got 100 of them in a room, most of us would go, yeah, things are great. Yeah, but how much better could they be? I asked one of my friends that has 800 employees, I said, how much is it costing your business to be the least healthiest city in the country?
Yeah.
Insurance, productivity. How many businesses will never move here? Because some assistant does a little Google and says to the CEO, hey, that's the least healthiest city in the country, right? And we never know this because we're all just looking, everything's fine. We love Oklahoma City. Everything's great.
That's fun. It's almost, there's a parallel there, kind of like whenever we work with people, they don't realize how bad they're really feeling until you get them tweaked and turned around in 6 months. And they're like, they're running, completely well. So like you said, we get used to what we're used to.
Yeah. My friends who say, yeah, I'm sleeping well. I go, yeah, you don't know what good sleep is. You don't. Yeah. I didn't know what it was to feel good. I knew how I felt and I'd felt that way for 15 years. So that's what I do. I sat down and said, okay, I've done the craziest real estate thing someone's ever attempted.
Yeah.
What else could we do that's pretty crazy? How do you take when I say city, to me, Oklahoma City is all of us. It's 1.4 million, not the 750,000 that are just part of Oklahoma City. Edmond's part of the city.
More.
Yeah, all of it. we're a city. How do we raise this city up to be a healthy city? And it's not just physical health. Mental health, I think, is the biggest health issue there is. I mean, that's where it begins. It's poverty. It's homelessness. It's what does a healthy city look like? Yeah, I am working on a pretty detailed strategy that I'll present to some city leaders here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and this is not, as we're talking, before we started recording, you were going through, you've actually got an action plan. You've got meetings set up. We're moving forward with this. You've got some big things coming up.
Well,
so I'm
a business guy.
Yeah.
If you're going to take on First National, you better have a strategic plan.
Yeah.
You better know exactly what you're going to do with the vault. I had to sit down and think, what do I want to do with the vault? Well, I go to 8 cities and I look at 8 vaults. And I go, okay, I like that. I like this. I like that. How did they do the light in that vault in Cleveland? So I fly to Cleveland to look at a vault. That's how they did the light. So
really?
It was wintertime. My wife's like, I go, hey, we need to go to Cleveland. She goes, why? I go, I got to go see a vault. I'm like, you're kidding. I got to go see this vault. So I've got a picture of me in front of this vault in Cleveland in the middle of winter. And that's how we did the light.
Yeah.
The lights on top of First National, I stole from another building. Called the engineer who did it and said, hey, come to my city, do it here. These things don't just fall into place.
Yeah. Well, I think just like the National, it's kind of a staple of Oklahoma City now, is the way I think of it, right or wrong. I think what you're dreaming up for the future could be similar. I mean, it needs to be a staple or kind of a hub or, making us more of a healthy city and kind of chipping away at that. I think that's a noble pursuit.
I hope so. For me, it was just education. I just didn't know. And I didn't know. And what I'm finding with most of my friends is a lot of it's just education. You don't have to make it complicated. One of the things I tell them is keep it simple. Don't try to figure out which type of magnesium you need to take if you're not walking. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about taking magnesium. What's the low-hanging fruit? Quit eating snacks and drinking at 9 p.m. at night. Just start there.
Yeah.
You'd be shocked at how much better. I got 8 or 10 things I just tell people. Just do this. Don't do anything else. Don't complicate it. You don't need to join a gym. Hopefully someday, maybe, but not right away. And that's my goal is how do you begin making it acceptable to have this language for people to begin talking about it? We're not shaming anybody. We're all trying to learn. We're all trying to figure out, hey, I'm not saying I want everybody to live to 100, but if you're going to live to 84, let's try to make that 84 good years. Let's not make it 64 good years and 20 kind of bad years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately now, what we're learning is we can control most of this. My generation and my parents' generation, most of us believe that this stuff's hereditary. Can't do anything about it.
Right.
Every qualified person I'm finding says, 80 to maybe 95% of it is controllable. My Lp(a), it's uncontrollable. Can't do anything about it. You're born with it. Well, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I can prove to you that I can fix that problem.
Right.
So it's education. I'm not afraid to jump in. I told someone about what I'm doing. They said, "That's nuts." I said, "You said that to me before." I'm not afraid of someone saying that's a crazy, stupid idea. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable doing crazy, stupid ideas.
Yeah.
Especially one that I think will work.
Right. Well, that's a cool way to live your life.
Yeah, what's that song? Living Your Best Life. That's me right now.
Yeah. Well, cool. So when do you think this is going to happen? You've said it. You've given me a number before. Healthiest city by
2040 is the goal.
Yeah.
It's a 14-year strategy. We'll roll it out spring of 2026. It gives me about 8 or 9 months here to pull everybody together. I need to get about 100 people on board with my strategy and nodding their head yes. My hope is by 2028, the Olympics hit, that we've made a lot of progress and we've got a lot of momentum. Telling the mayor, who's, of course, leading this charge, they're going to be looking for stories. When the Olympics come, you watch them. They're looking for lifestyle stories wherever they're at. And this will be the greatest opportunity for Oklahoma City to shine in a positive way. And so that's part of the goal. Let's get some momentum. Hopefully we'll have a Thunder Championship banner or two hung up by then. So we'll also be becoming the healthiest city in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's 14-year strategy. This isn't going to happen quick.
No.
We didn't get here fast. We got here slow, and it's going to take a long time. My hope is that in a few years, you get some momentum and people begin having the conversation. The language becomes a little more common. And so when I talk to someone about throw a DEXA scan out, none of my friends know what a DEXA scan is, or ApoB or triglycerides, or I'd love to see a point where a lot more people know what is that. Everybody seems to know their LDL and HDL and cholesterol.
Yeah. People know more about what's in their retirement fund than their own bodies. And there's so much data available, and it's not hard to learn all this stuff, to keep track of it.
It's not.
And you're going to spend time dealing with that now or later, whether it's in that last decade of life, hanging out in a hospital bed with I know a good close family friend right now just had a heart attack, and now he's laid out. I know he'd rather be doing other things.
That was part of my motivation. It hit me one day, you're going to pay one way or the other. My friends go, yeah, but you're doing that stuff, you got to pay out of pocket. You're going to pay out of pocket at some point. And the other piece, and I usually don't talk about this because it can feel really personal. So I make it personal just so that maybe someone can relate. I did not take care of myself for 60 years. And I had heart surgery. Well, guess who paid for that heart surgery? Everybody. I became, I sucked on the system. I wasn't contributing to the system. My health became a problem for everyone in my community. I described it to a friend one day. I said, it'd be like going in a restaurant and you and I order healthy food and water, and the table next to us orders $1,000 a bottle of wine and lobsters. When they bring us the check, they split it up evenly. And I go, no, wait a minute. We didn't order the $1,000 bottle of wine. Yeah, but everybody's got to pay. So you're going to pay for their dinner. I'm like, that's not fair. I was the $1,000 bottle of wine. I cost the system. And I woke up one day, I looked at the number and I said, we spend more money in this country on healthcare than we do national defense. That's an unsustainable system. As a business guy, you can't sustain that. And so I just decided I want to be a contributor to the system. I don't want to take from the system anymore. If enough of us wake up and go, okay, how do I contribute to the system and not take from it? Again, these are delicate topics. I mean, I came from a very unhealthy family. My mother died in the heart hospital, many surgeries. And I realized Medicare, Medicaid, something's paying for that. But ultimately, that's us. It's like we all go in the restaurant and everybody gets the bill for everyone else all over the country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't feel good. But it's what's happening.
Yeah.
And we've accepted it. And I've just decided personally that I want to be a contributor. I'm tired of taking from the system, which is what I've done, because of my own lifestyle. These are choices I've made.
Yeah. And then outside of think about how much money we could save for the city. Think about how much, that could be huge. Just think about it from a time standpoint. Just the time, forget the finances of it all, just the time of having to go and do this chronic disease crap the last 10 years of your life when you should be doing other things. When you're on your way out of this world, let's just spend that decade a little bit better than hanging out in waiting rooms and hospital beds and doing all that crap.
Well, you hit on the right point. As a business guy, the first thing I think about, one of the reasons that we're working hard in 2025 to roll out in 2026 is I want to quantify what is that number.
Yeah.
And so we're working on trying to get qualified people to help us identify what would it do to the GDP, the gross domestic production in Oklahoma City, to go from 100 to number one. And the number will be in the billions. It'll be staggering when we really begin to look at healthcare costs and productivity and all of the things that poor health costs the city. So that's what we're going to try to build that model. So at least we have a number that we can look at and go, it's not perfect, but it's pretty close. I'm not sure anybody else has ever tried to identify that number, but as a business guy, I need to know. I need to know the number. Is it cost this city $2 billion a year to be unhealthy? And what could it save us to be number one? It's a big number.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about this. I like the way you think, man. I've never made that a secret to you, Gary. So what do you, I mean, how can people help you? Or, I mean, what are you looking for? How can people buy into this and, follow this?
We haven't put anything out there yet.
Yeah.
We're still building the infrastructure, that ecosystem that will roll out. But I'd answer it two ways. Follow you because you're going to know it and you're going to put it out there. But it'll be very obvious when we roll this out. It's going to be on the media. It's going to be on social media. It'll be on billboards. It'll be on TV. Not that everyone will get behind it. Not everyone is going to say, "Hey, I want to be healthy and well." We get that. Hopefully we can build enough momentum and give people enough reason to say, "Hey, yeah, I'd like to get a little healthier." I'm not trying to turn people into health addicts that, think they're going to live to 100.
Right.
Some of us will, but that's not the goal. The goal is simply, for me, it's personal. I'm tired of going to funerals of people that I think could have been avoided. And I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want my wife to have to bury me. That's a personal goal. But I think most people, if you said, "Hey, for not a lot of effort, if you'll just listen and
Right.
a little education and make a few adjustments,"
Yeah.
and guess what? Your friends are making some adjustments too. And all of a sudden you got a few more people walking after dinner and you get momentum built over 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. And all of a sudden, if people are looking up going, "Gosh, I feel better at 80 than I would have felt," that's good for a city.
You make a good point there, Gary. You said not a lot of effort, and that's true. It's just some small tweaks. It's not that hard to make a little bit of tiny changes can make a huge difference. I was talking to Ben Miller down at OMRF about this, and he says the biggest gain you get from, say, just exercise goes from the guy that's, sitting on the couch, not doing anything, to doing something. That's the biggest gain as far as from a longevity perspective. The gain that you might have from working out, you go from 5 hours to 6 hours. I mean, there'd be maybe a little bit of gain, but not much compared to that other example. Small changes, huge benefit.
It's education. You don't need to commit 2 hours a day to this. It may just be 15 minutes, but it's 15 minutes more than you're doing. And if your friends are doing it and you begin to see some benefit, that momentum could lead. There's a lot of strategies, but one of them that popped in, I'd like to celebrate centenarians.
Yeah.
I'd like to identify every person that's 100 or more in Oklahoma City. And my vision is every year we celebrate people that turn 100. Begin to shift how we view aging. My generation, most of my friends go, "I don't want to live to be 90. Well, the reason they don't want to live to be 90 is because they don't know anyone who's 90 who's healthy. I grew up singing at the rest homes in my church group. As a 10 and 12-year-old, the last thing I wanted to be was old.
Yeah.
I don't want to be old. And I think it's how many of us grew up, just with this vision of my parents or my grandparents or your parents, and I don't want to be that way. Well, what I learned is I don't have to be that way. I come from an incredibly unhealthy heart family. I'm not going to have heart issues because I now know how to prevent that and how to reverse it and how to stop it. So it's education and it's momentum. As a business guy, we know momentum is the best thing you could have. So for me, I just try to create a little momentum, just start a little momentum. And you'd be surprised after 6 months or 12 months, a few more people get in, that momentum builds, and you just keep building the momentum. It's really not that difficult if you don't try to complicate it.
Well, cool. Well, is there any other points you'd like to make? Anything else you want people to know before we wrap it up?
No, they'll if this unravels the way I expect it to, we won't be hard to find.
Yeah. Well, cool.
And we're going to need a lot of people.
Yeah.
I like to say I'm going to need 10,000 health champions. I'm going to need 10,000 people in our city that have said, "Hey, I'm committed. What can I do?" Maybe you're leading a walk after dinner in your neighborhood. Maybe that's what you do. There's a lot of people in our city that are thinking about this and are actually doing it. I'd like to somehow bring those people together, which could even build a bigger tribe of momentum and just make it a little more acceptable every year to say, hey, yeah, I want to think more about health and wellness. I'm tired of driving a car with no gauges. I'd like to have a speedometer and a gas gauge.
Yeah.
At least something that I can look at and go, how's my car really running?
At least know if my tank's full. Yeah. Well, cool. Gary, man, thanks for making the time today. I really appreciate it. I know you're blowing and going all the time, so I appreciate you sitting down with me here.
Well, you were the guy I was looking for, and when I found you, I knew it. We all need someone who has much more knowledge and understanding, is willing to sit down and understand my lifestyle, my personality, and just continue to push me and move me to the next place. I'm excited. Can't wait to be 70.
Yeah. 80.
If 73 is as good as 63, I'm in. Yeah. I don't know how far I'm going to go, but I tell my young friends, this is the greatest time in the history of the world to be alive. I just want to see it. Mm-hmm. And if I can be a part of it for the next 30, 40 years, man, that's exciting.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to this rollout next year, brother. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, well,
now I have to do it.
That's right. Yeah, you're on the...
Can't go, I was just an idea. Yeah, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks again. Oklahoma's lucky to have you, man. So, and everyone, thanks for listening, and see you next time. Thanks for listening. You can follow us on Apple and Spotify, and please review us to let us know what you think.